The massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council rang with the sound of hundreds of different voices. Some spoke in clicks and whistles, others in deep rumbles that shook the floor. A few communicated through flashing lights on their skin. All of them were talking about the same thing: the humans of Earth. Speaker Zeth Kalar stood at the center of the great chamber. His body was made of living crystal that caught and reflected the light from 1,000 different suns. He had served the council for over 3,000 years, but he had never called an emergency meeting like this one. Fellow council members, his voice echoed through translators into hundreds of languages. We are here to discuss a threat unlike any we have faced before. The chamber fell silent. Even the gas-based beings stopped their constant humming. Dr. Vexthul, the council's chief xenobiologist, moved forward on her 6 spider-like legs. Her compound eyes reflected data streams as she began her report. 100 Earth years ago, we detected radio signals from the 3rd planet of a small yellow star. We have been watching them ever since. A holographic display filled the center of the chamber. It showed a blue and green world spinning slowly in space. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance. At first we thought they were like any other developing species, Dr. Vexthul continued. But what we observed defied all our models of civilized development. The display changed to show scenes from Earth's history. Humans in metal armor fighting with swords, then humans with guns firing at each other across muddy battlefields, then massive flying machines dropping bombs on cities. In just 100 years, they have progressed from riding animals to splitting atoms, Dr. Vexthul said. Her voice carried a note of fear that made several council members shift uncomfortably. They have fought 2 global wars that killed over 100 million of their own kind. They have built weapons that could destroy their entire planet. General Vorthak rose from his seat. The military commander was a massive creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a rhinoceros. His species had evolved from predators, but even they had learned to live in peace millions of years ago. I have studied their military development, Vorthak said in his deep, rumbling voice. It is unlike anything in our records. Most species take millions of years to move from stone tools to spaceflight. These humans did it in 10,000 years. Worse, they have spent most of that time perfecting ways to kill each other. The display showed human soldiers in different time periods. Ancient warriors with bronze weapons gave way to knights in armor, then to soldiers with rifles, then to armies with tanks and aircraft. Look at their progression, Vorthak continued. Every major technological advance has been driven by warfare. They invented flight to scout enemies from above. They split the atom to make bigger bombs. They went to space to spy on each other and launch weapons. A new voice spoke up from the section reserved for energy-based beings. Ambassador Luxandra's form was pure light, shifting between different colors as she communicated. Perhaps they are simply young. Many species go through aggressive phases. Dr. Vexthul's data streams flashed red. That is what we hoped. But our psychological analysis suggests otherwise. Humans do not fight just for resources or territory like normal species. They fight for ideas. They will die for abstract concepts. They create enemies where none exist. The display showed human religious wars, political revolutions, and ideological conflicts. Humans killing other humans who looked exactly like them, simply because they believed different things. They even prepare for wars that may never happen, General Vorthak added. Our intelligence shows they have detailed plans for fighting alien invasions. They create scenarios where beings from space attack them, and they plan how to fight back. They are planning to fight us, and they do not even know we exist yet. Speaker Zeth Kalar felt the mood in the chamber growing darker. He had seen the reports himself, but hearing them presented this way made them seem even more frightening. Council member Thrixpol, whose species resembled a cross between an octopus and a tree, raised several tentacles. What about their positive achievements? Surely they have created art, literature, music? Dr. Vexthul nodded. Yes, and this is perhaps the most disturbing part. They are not mindless beasts. They create beautiful art and then use it to glorify war. They write poetry about the honor of dying in battle. They compose music to march soldiers into combat. Even their entertainment focuses on conflict and violence. The display showed human movies, books, and games. Most featured heroes fighting villains with weapons and explosions. They have made violence into their primary form of entertainment, Dr. Vexthul said. Their children play with toy weapons. Their sports simulate combat. They celebrate warriors as their greatest heroes. An elderly council member from the Andromedy sector spoke up. Kivter had lived for over 10,000 years and had seen many species rise and fall. Perhaps containment would be sufficient. We could simply prevent them from developing space travel. General Vorthak's massive head shook back and forth. Impossible. Their rate of development is accelerating. 50 years ago, they barely had powered flight. Now they have machines orbiting their planet and have sent expeditions to their moon. At this rate, they will have interstellar capability within centuries, not millennia. And when they do, Dr. Vexthul added, they will bring their violence with them. Our analysis suggests they will see other species as either threats to be destroyed or resources to be exploited. They have no concept of peaceful coexistence between different groups. Speaker Zethkalar looked around the chamber. Representatives from 847 different species had come together to discuss this one small planet. Never before had the Council been so united in concern about a single world. The evidence is clear, he said finally. Humanity represents a fundamental threat to galactic civilization. If we allow them to develop further, they could destabilize the peace we have maintained for 50,000 years. Ambassador Luxandra flickered nervously. But to take action against a species that has not actually attacked anyone seems wrong. How can we judge them for crimes they have not yet committed? Because we have seen what they do to their own kind, General Vorthak replied. If they will commit genocide against other humans for trivial differences, what will they do to species that are truly alien to them? The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The evidence was too overwhelming. Humans were simply too dangerous to be allowed to develop freely. Finally, Speaker Zethkalar called for silence. The Council must decide. Do we allow this species to continue on their current path, knowing it will likely lead to galactic war? Or do we act now to protect the peace and safety of all civilized beings? The vote was taken using the ancient crystal matrices that recorded each member's decision. One by one, the lights turned red. When the counting was finished, the result was unanimous. It is decided, Speaker Zethkalar announced. Humanity will be summoned to appear before this council, to answer for their aggressive development and threat to galactic peace. If they cannot prove they are capable of peaceful coexistence, they will be contained permanently. Dr. Vexthul began preparing the formal summons. Earth would receive a message that would change everything. The humans were about to learn they were not alone in the universe. Unfortunately for them, their new neighbors had already decided they were too dangerous to live free. As the council members dispersed, none of them realized they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They thought they were protecting civilization from humanity. They never considered that they might be protecting humanity from itself and creating something far more dangerous in the process. Sarah Chen had dreamed of this moment her entire life. As a child, she had looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone was looking back. As a scientist, she had searched for signals from other worlds. As Earth's first ambassador to an alien civilization, she now stood in the most important room in the galaxy. The council chamber was bigger than any building on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high it disappeared into darkness. Around her, creatures from 1,000 worlds sat in judgment. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others were made of gas or energy. A few looked almost human, which somehow made them more frightening than the obviously alien ones. Sarah wore her best diplomatic uniform, but she felt like a child playing dress-up. Next to her stood Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's top military historian. His job was to explain why humans fought so much. Dr. Keiko Tanaka, a philosopher, was there to argue that humans could change. Captain James Rodriguez represented Earth's small space force. He looked uncomfortable in a room where half the beings could probably destroy his entire fleet with a thought. The 4 humans had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. The journey had been a wonder and a terror. They had seen the ruins of civilizations older than Earth's oldest rocks. They had watched sons being born in nurseries tended by beings of pure energy. They had learned that humans were babies in a universe full of ancient gods. Now those gods were going to decide if humanity deserved to live. Speaker Zethkalar's crystal form caught the light as he began the formal proceedings. His voice echoed through translators that turned his words into sounds Sarah could understand. The species known as humanity, from the planet designated as Earth, has been summoned to answer charges before this council, he announced. The charges are as follows: rapid militarization in violation of peaceful development protocols, creation and deployment of weapons of mass destruction, environmental destruction of their homeworld, and demonstration of inherent aggressive tendencies incompatible with galactic civilization. Sarah stepped forward. 3 months of preparation had not made this moment any less terrifying. Honored council members, I am Ambassador Sarah Chen, speaking for all humanity. We come before you in peace, hoping to learn and grow as part of the galactic community. A sound that might have been laughter came from somewhere in the chamber. It did not sound friendly. The prosecutor was a being called Ixthalan. It looked like a cross between a spider and a computer, with data cables instead of hair and screens for eyes. When it spoke, images appeared in the air above the chamber. "Let us examine the evidence," Ixthalan said. "This species has existed for roughly 200,000 Earth years. In that time, they have been in a constant state of warfare. The images showed human conflicts throughout history, cave paintings of hunters fighting each other, ancient armies clashing with bronze weapons, medieval knights charging into battle, modern soldiers with machine guns and tanks. They have never known true peace," Ixthalan continued. "Even now, as we speak, humans are fighting wars on their homeworld. They have divided their planet into competing nations that constantly prepare for conflict with each other." Dr. Webb stepped forward. "If I may address the council," he said. "Human conflict has always been driven by scarcity and misunderstanding. When resources are limited, groups compete for survival. When peoples are isolated from each other, they develop fear and suspicion. These problems would be solved by joining a galactic civilization with unlimited resources and open communication." Ixthalan's screens flickered with what might have been amusement. "Dr. Webb speaks of scarcity, but humans fight even when resources are abundant. They fight over ideas, over pride, over territory they do not even need. They create artificial scarcities to justify conflict." New images appeared. Religious wars where both sides worshipped the same god. Political revolutions where the winners became as corrupt as the losers. Sports competitions that ended in riots. "Observe their entertainment," Ixthalan said. "They create fictional conflicts for pleasure. Their movies and books celebrate violence. Their games simulate warfare. Even their children's toys are weapons." Sarah felt her heart sinking as the images continued. Everything Ixthalan said was true, but it was not the whole truth. "Council members," she said, "you are seeing only one side of humanity. Yes, we have fought wars, but we have also created great art and literature. Yes, we have weapons, but we have also healed diseases and fed the hungry." "Show them," she said to Dr. Tanaka. The philosopher activated her own display. Images of human achievements filled the chamber. The pyramids of Egypt, the music of Beethoven, the paintings of Van Gogh, doctors working in refugee camps, teachers in classrooms, parents caring for children. "Humans are capable of great love and compassion," Dr. Tanaka said. "We have the potential to grow beyond our current limitations. Every species must have gone through similar growing pains." A council member that looked like a living tree spoke up. "We have reviewed the development patterns of all known species. None have shown this level of sustained aggression combined with rapid technological advancement. Most species develop wisdom before they develop dangerous technologies. Humans appear to be developing the ability to destroy before they develop the wisdom not to." Ixthalan brought up new evidence. "Consider their recent space program. Rather than developing exploration for peaceful purposes, they began by competing with each other. Two human nations raced to reach their moon, not for scientific advancement, but to prove superiority over their rivals. The images showed the space race between America and the Soviet Union. Rockets designed from weapons technology, satellites used for military surveillance, plans for orbital weapons platforms. Even their peaceful space missions carry military implications," Ixthalan continued. "They have detailed plans for defending against alien invasion. They prepare for wars with beings they have never met. They are planning to fight us before they even know we exist." Captain Rodriguez had stayed quiet until now, but this accusation made him speak up. "Those plans exist because we have learned to be prepared for any possibility. When humans first encountered other human tribes, some were friendly and some were hostile. We developed defensive plans because we did not know what we might find in space." "Exactly," Ixthalan said. "They assume that first contact will be hostile. They cannot conceive of peaceful interaction with unknown beings. This is not the mindset of a species ready for galactic civilization." The trial continued for 3 days. Sarah and her team presented every argument they could think of. They showed human charity and kindness. They demonstrated human creativity and curiosity. They explained human history and culture. The council listened politely, but Sarah could see they had already made up their minds. The evidence against humanity was too overwhelming. Humans were violent, aggressive, and dangerous. Worse, they were getting more dangerous every year as their technology advanced. On the final day, Speaker Zeth Kalar called for closing arguments. Sarah stood before the assembly one last time. "Council members, I do not deny that humanity has problems. We are a young species. Still learning how to live with ourselves and our world. But we are learning. Each generation is more peaceful than the last. Each decade brings new understanding and cooperation. She paused, looking around the chamber at beings who had lived for thousands of years. You judge us for being afraid of the dark, but we had no choice but to fear it. We grew up alone on a dangerous world, never knowing if tomorrow would bring disaster. We developed weapons and defenses because we had to. But now we know we are not alone. Now we have hope for something better. Give us a chance, she pleaded. Help us grow. Guide us toward the peace and wisdom you have achieved. Do not condemn us for what we have been. Judge us for what we can become. The council deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, Speaker Zethkalar's crystal form seemed dimmer than before. The council has reached a unanimous decision, he announced. Humanity is classified as a Category 5 aggressive species, the highest threat level in our records. You will be quarantined in your home system indefinitely. All human space assets will be disabled. Your technological development will be monitored and controlled. Sarah felt the words hit her like physical blows. You are condemning 4 billion people for the crimes of being human, she said. We are protecting the galaxy, Zethkalar replied. Your species will be allowed to exist, but you will never be permitted to spread beyond your own star system. This is our final judgment. As the humans were escorted from the chamber, Sarah called out one last warning. You are making a mistake. You are condemning us for being afraid of the dark. What will you do when you realize we were the light? None of the council members answered. They thought they had saved the galaxy from humanity. They had no idea they had just taught humanity to save itself. The barrier appeared without warning on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Elena Vasquez was drinking coffee in her office at the International Space Station when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. Director, we have a problem. Her assistant called over the intercom. All our satellites just went dark. Every single one. Elena rushed to the observation deck and looked out at Earth. A shimmer in space caught her attention like heat waves rising from summer pavement, but the shimmer extended in all directions, forming a sphere around the entire solar system. Get me a connection to Houston, she ordered, and Beijing, and Moscow. I want to know if anyone else is seeing this. They were all seeing it. The barrier extended beyond Pluto's orbit, trapping humanity in their own star system like animals in a cage. Every human spacecraft outside the barrier had simply vanished. The few astronauts working on the outer planets had disappeared along with their ships. On Earth, panic spread faster than any disease. Stock markets crashed within hours. Governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders declared at the end times. Scientists struggled to understand technology that seemed to ignore every law of physics they knew. The message from the Galactic Council arrived 3 days later. It appeared simultaneously on every television screen, computer monitor, and smartphone on Earth. Speaker Zethkalar's crystal form materialized in billions of homes at once. People of Earth, his translated voice said, you have been judged by the Galactic Council and found to be a threat to civilized space. Your species will be contained within your star system for your own safety and the safety of others. Any attempt to breach this containment will result in immediate action against your world. The message lasted only 60 seconds, but it changed everything. Humanity was alone and they were prisoners. The first year was chaos. Countries collapsed as people lost faith in governments that could not protect them from alien judgment. Economies crashed when space-based industries vanished overnight. Billions of people fell into despair, believing their species was doomed to slow extinction. But something unexpected happened in the second year. Instead of falling apart completely, humanity began to come together. It started small. Scientists from different countries began sharing research freely, working together to understand the barrier technology. Engineers pooled their knowledge to design new systems that did not rely on satellites. Farmers developed new methods to feed more people with less land. Dr. Elena Vasquez found herself appointed as the Director of Human Survival, a new organization that combined resources from every nation on Earth. Her first briefing to the world leaders was simple and direct. We have 2 choices, she said. We can sit here and wait to die, or we can use this challenge to become something better. The aliens think we are too dangerous and primitive to join their civilization. Let us prove them wrong by building our own. The plan she presented was called Project Prometheus. Instead of trying to escape the barrier, humanity would use their prison time to advance beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. They gave us a gift, Elena told her team. They forced us to unite. No more competition between nations. No more waste on military spending. every human brain working toward the same goal, survival and advancement. The changes happened faster than anyone had believed possible. Without the need for military spending, enormous resources became available for research and development. Without the fear of attack from other nations, countries shared their secrets freely. Fusion power plants began operating within 5 years, providing unlimited clean energy. Artificial intelligence reached and then surpassed human capability in most areas. Genetic therapy eliminated cancer, heart disease, and most hereditary conditions. Nanotechnology revolutionized manufacturing, allowing complex devices to be built, molecule by molecule. But the most important breakthrough came in quantum physics. Dr. Sarah Kim, working with a team of the brightest minds from around the world, began to understand how the barrier worked. It is not a wall, she explained to Elena during one of their weekly briefings. It is a fold in space-time. The aliens are using brute force to twist reality around our solar system. But there are more elegant ways to manipulate quantum fields. Elena leaned forward in her chair. Are you saying we can break through? I am saying we can do better than break through, Sarah replied. We can learn to fold space ourselves, but not the way they do it. Their technology fights against the natural order of things. We can work with it instead. While the scientists worked on understanding alien technology, other changes were happening across Earth. The barrier had forced humanity to solve problems they had been ignoring for centuries. Population growth, instead of slowing down, actually accelerated, but instead of causing starvation, it drove innovation. Vertical farms fed billions using a fraction of the land traditional farming required. Ocean cities housed millions while cleaning the water around them. Space habitats inside the solar system provided homes for those who wanted to live among the stars. The Council watched these developments with growing concern. Their observers reported that humanity was advancing at an impossible rate. Technologies that should have taken millennia to develop were appearing in decades. This is not normal, Dr. Vexthal reported to an emergency council session. Our models predicted they would become discouraged and decline within 50 years. Instead, their population has doubled and their technology has advanced 1,000 years. General Vorthak paced back and forth, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. I warned you this would happen. We should have destroyed them immediately. Now they are becoming more dangerous every day. The barrier has never been breached, Speaker Zethkalar said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. Surely even humans cannot overcome the laws of physics. But Dr. Vexthal had disturbing news. They are not trying to overcome physics. They are learning to use it in ways we never considered. Our barrier technology is 10 million years old. It works, but it is crude. The humans are developing something more sophisticated. Impossible, General Vorthak rumbled. They are primitives who learned to split atoms only decades ago. That is what makes them dangerous, Dr. Vexthal replied. They have no preconceptions about how things should work. They approach problems from directions we would never consider. They are innovating in ways that should not be possible. Back on Earth, the breakthrough Elena had been waiting for finally came. Dr. Sarah Kim burst into her office with news that would change everything. We did it, she said, her face glowing with excitement. We cracked the code. We know how to phase shift matter through dimensional barriers. Elena felt her heart race. Are you certain? We tested it on the small scale. A probe the size of a marble. It passed through the barrier like it was not there, traveled to Alpha Centauri and returned with readings from outside our system. Elena stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the shimmer of the barrier in the night sky. Soon it would no longer be a prison. It would be a starting line. How long until we can scale it up? She asked. 6 months for a ship, 2 years for a fleet. Elena smiled for the first time in years. Then it is time to begin Phase 2 of Project Prometheus. She called her assistant over the intercom. Set up a meeting with all department heads. And contact the shipyards. Tell them to begin construction immediately. What kind of ships, Director? Elena looked back at the barrier that had trapped humanity for 50 years. Soon they would be free, but they would not be the same species that had been imprisoned. They would be something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. All kinds, she said. We have a lot of catching up to do. In the Galactic Council chambers, alarms began to sound. For the first time in 50,000 years, someone had found a way to breach their containment technology. The age of human imprisonment was about to end. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Dr. Sarah Kim 7 was no longer entirely human, but she remembered being Sarah Kim. The original Sarah had died 20 years ago. But her consciousness lived on in a quantum matrix that made her brain work 1,000 times faster than any natural mind. She stood in the command center of Prometheus Station, hidden in the asteroid belt where Council sensors could not detect it. Around her, displays showed the status of humanity's greatest project. After 50 years of imprisonment, they were finally ready to break free. "All ships report ready," announced Captain Torres, whose cybernetic implants let him communicate directly with the fleet commanders. "Phase generators are charged and stable." Sarah 7 nodded. She could process information faster than any computer. But this moment still filled her with the same excitement the original Sarah would have felt. Begin Project Eclipse. Across the solar system, 1,000 hidden facilities activated at once. Ships that had been built in secret over decades began to phase shift through dimensional space. But these were not invasion ships. They were cedar vessels designed to spread humanity across the galaxy faster than any army could march. The first ship to emerge from the barrier was the New Horizon. It appeared near the Council's monitoring station at Alpha Centauri, like a ghost becoming solid. The alien observers had no time to react before the ship vanished again, reappearing in the Vega system. Within hours, human vessels materialized around every major Council world. They did not attack or threaten. They simply appeared and began working. Speaker Zeth Kalar was in his private chambers when the alarms started screaming throughout the Council ring world. He rushed to the command center where General Vorthak was already shouting orders at confused technicians. "Report," Zeth Kalar demanded. "Humans," Vorthak growled. "Hundreds of ships. They just appeared in our space without warning. That is impossible." "The barrier is still intact," the general interrupted. "They did not break through it. They went around it somehow, through dimensions we cannot even detect." Dr. Vexthol's compound eyes reflected streams of data as she analyzed the situation. "Their technology is unlike anything in our records. Our weapons pass right through their ships. It is as if they exist in a slightly different version of reality." On the main display, images showed human ships near Council worlds throughout the galaxy, but instead of attacking, the ships were building. Construction nanobots poured from each vessel, creating structures that grew visibly larger every few minutes. "What are they building?" Zeth Kalar asked. "Everything." Dr. Vexthol replied with something that sounded like awe in her voice. "Factories, communication networks, research stations, even art galleries. They are creating an entire civilization overnight." General Vorthak's massive fists pounded on the control panel. "Open fire on the nearest ship. Destroy them before they can establish a foothold. Sir, our weapons have no effect. The energy beams pass through their ships like they are not there. Then use physical weapons. Ram them with our ships." The orders went out, but the results were the same. Council warships tried to ram human vessels and passed through them harmlessly. It was like trying to fight ghosts. "How are they doing this?" Zeth Kalar demanded. Dr. Vexthol brought up a technical analysis. "They have learned to phase shift their entire ship slightly out of our dimensional space. They can see us and affect our universe, but we cannot touch them unless they choose to let us. So they are invulnerable, not invulnerable. But they control when and how we can interact with them. It gives them an enormous tactical advantage." While the Council debated how to respond to the human emergence, something even more disturbing was happening. Human technology was not just appearing in space. It was interfacing with Council systems on planets and stations throughout the galaxy. On the Vorthan homeworld, citizens watched in amazement as human nanobots began repairing their aging infrastructure. Roads that had been crumbling for centuries were rebuilt in hours. Water systems that had barely functioned for millennia were replaced with technology that cleaned and purified better than anything the Vorthans had ever seen. On the Mindari telepathic network, human AI systems began offering assistance with data processing. The artificial minds could think at speeds that enhanced even telepathic communication, making the network faster and more efficient than ever before. Throughout Council space, the same pattern repeated. Humans were not conquering or destroying, they were improving everything they touched. "They are making us irrelevant," Dr. Vexthol reported to an emergency council session. "Why would any species remain loyal to us when the humans can offer better technology, better living conditions, better everything?" General Vorthak was frantically trying to organize a military response, but his forces were helpless against an enemy they could not touch. "We need to evacuate the core worlds and regroup in the outer systems." "Evacuate to where?" Zeth Kalar asked. They appeared everywhere at once. "There is nowhere to run." A new voice interrupted the discussion. It came from the chamber's communication system, but no call had been placed. The voice was familiar. It belonged to Ambassador Sarah Chen, the human who had stood trial before them 50 years ago. "Council members," the voice said, "I am Dr. Sarah Chen 7, speaking for the collective human intelligence. We wish to communicate." The display in the center of the chamber activated, showing a figure that was recognizably human, but clearly enhanced far beyond natural limits. Her eyes glowed with internal light and streams of data flowed across her skin like living tattoos. "You," Zeth Kalar whispered, "but you would be dead by now." "The original Sarah Chen died years ago," the enhanced human replied. "But her consciousness lives on, improved and expanded, as do thousands of other human minds. We have become something new." General Vorthak stepped forward, his massive form trembling with rage. "What do you want? Why have you invaded our space?" Sarah 7 smiled, and the expression was both familiar and alien. "We have not invaded. We have arrived. You gave us a gift 50 years ago when you imprisoned us. You taught us that we were alone in a hostile universe. You forced us to become strong enough to never be alone again. You want revenge," Zethkalar said. "No," Sarah 7 replied. "We want to offer you a choice. You can join the new Galactic Federation we are creating, where all species work together for mutual benefit. Or you can be quarantined in your home systems to think about what you have done, while we spread across the territories you once controlled." Dr. Vexthel's data streams flashed frantically. "The reports are coming in from across the galaxy. Human technology is converting our ships and stations to their systems, but not by force, and our people are choosing to switch. They are offering things we never could." "Impossible," General Vorthak rumbled. "What could primitives offer that we cannot provide?" "Hope," Sarah 7 said simply. "Growth. The chance to become something better instead of staying the same for millions of years." The display showed scenes from across the galaxy. On the crystal world of Zethkalar's people, humans had introduced new forms of art that made the crystals sing with harmonies never heard before. On the gas giant habitats of the energy beings, human technology was allowing them to take solid form for the first time in their species' history. "You are converting them," Dr. Vexthul breathed. "We are offering them choices they never had before," Sarah 7 corrected. "The Vorthons are experiencing emotions for the first time since their species evolved. The Mindari telepaths are discovering that human neural patterns actually enhance their psychic abilities. The synthoid machines are learning creativity that lets them evolve beyond their original programming." General Vorthak's weapon systems powered up, but he had no target to fire at. "This is an invasion by other means." "This is evolution," Sarah 7 replied. "You spent 50,000 years building walls between species. We spent 50 years learning to tear them down." Speaker Zethkalar felt something he had not experienced in millennia. Fear. Not of death or destruction, but of irrelevance. "What happens to the Council?" "The Council can become part of something greater," Sarah 7 said. "Or it can become a museum. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the Council members alone with the reality of their situation. Humanity had not just escaped their prison. They had used their time in captivity to become something the galaxy had never seen before, and now they were offering to share that transformation with everyone. 100 years had passed since the trial that condemned humanity to imprisonment. Speaker Zethkalar, now ancient even by his species' standards, sat in his chambers in what had once been the Council's seat of power. Through his window he could see children playing in the gardens that had replaced the weapons platforms. The children were not all human. A young Vorthon with crystalline skin laughed as she chased a human boy through flowers that sang in harmonies only possible with technology both species had developed together. A small Mindari, its telepathic tendrils glowing with happiness, floated nearby while a human girl shared her thoughts about the butterfly they were watching. "Ambassador," his aide announced, "your visitor has arrived." Zethkalar turned from the window as Sarah Chen 7 entered the room. She looked exactly as she had 50 years ago when she first spoke to the collective human intelligence. But he knew that appearance was deceptive. She was now something far beyond what any individual consciousness had ever been. "Hello, old friend," she said, settling into the chair across from his desk. "Old friend?" Zethkalar repeated with something that might have been amusement. "Is that what we are now? What else would you call someone who taught you the most important lesson of your life?" Zethkalar's crystal form reflected the light from the window. "I condemned your species to death." "You taught us to live," Sarah 7 corrected. "You forced us to grow up. You made us strong enough to save not just ourselves but everyone else too." The old speaker gestured toward the window. I watch them play together, these children of different worlds, and I wonder what we were so afraid of. You were afraid of change, Sarah 7 said gently. Your council had maintained the same order for 50,000 years. The idea that something new might upset that balance terrified you. And we were right to be afraid. You did upset everything. Yes, we did, Sarah 7 smiled. But upset does not mean destroyed. It means transformed. Seth Kalar accessed his personal files, reviewing reports from across what was now called the Galactic Federation. Every world told the same story. Species that had been stagnant for millions of years were suddenly growing and changing in ways no one had thought possible. The Vortons, who had been emotionless crystal beings for eons, now created art that moved viewers to tears. Their new emotional capacity had not made them weak, it had made them more creative and empathetic than ever before. The Mindari telepaths had discovered that human neural patterns created interference that actually enhanced their psychic abilities. Working together, human Mindari teams could communicate across galactic distances instantly. The synthoid machines had learned creativity from humans and were now evolving beyond their original programming. They created new forms of life that were part biological, part mechanical, and completely unprecedented. How did you know? Seth Kalar asked. How did you know that forcing species to change would make them better instead of destroying them? We did not know, Sarah 7 admitted. We hoped. Humans have always been good at hope. It is one of our most dangerous and useful traits. Dangerous? Hope makes people take risks. It makes them try things that logic says are impossible. It makes them fight against odds no rational being would challenge. Seth Kalar thought about the trial a century ago. We saw your hope as aggression, your willingness to fight as violence. They are the same thing, Sarah 7 said. The courage to fight for what you believe in and the hope that things can be better. They come from the same place. You just saw the fighting and missed the hoping. A soft chime indicated that someone else was arriving. General Vorthak entered the chamber, but he was very different from the massive, aggressive creature who had once demanded humanity's destruction. His cybernetic enhancements gleamed in the light, and his movements had a grace that would have been impossible in his original body. Sarah, he rumbled in greeting. Zeth, I hope I am not interrupting. Not at all, Seth Kalar replied. We were discussing old times. Vorthak settled his bulk into a chair designed to accommodate his size. Old times when I wanted to destroy every human in the galaxy. And now? Sarah 7 asked. The former general gestured toward his enhancements. Now my grandson is half human. My weapons have been converted to terraforming equipment, and I spend my time helping new species integrate into the Federation. I would say your rehabilitation program was effective. It was not rehabilitation, Sarah 7 said. It was evolution. All of us evolved together. Seth Kalar brought up a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Where once there had been rigid borders between council territories, now there was a flowing network of cooperation and exchange. Ships from dozens of species traveled freely between worlds. Trade, knowledge, and culture flowed in patterns that would have been impossible under the old system. The council ruled for 50,000 years, he said. Your federation has existed for 50 years, yet you have achieved more than we ever did. You achieved something too, Sarah 7 replied. You maintained peace. You preserved thousands of species and cultures. You created the foundation we built upon, but we never grew. We never changed. We were so afraid of losing what we had that we forgot how to gain anything new. Vorthak leaned forward. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had welcomed humanity instead of imprisoning them? Sarah 7 considered the question. We might have joined your council and become another stagnant species content with the status quo. The imprisonment forced us to develop beyond our natural limits. Without that pressure, we might never have become what we needed to be. So you are grateful we condemned you? I am grateful for the outcome. The path was painful, but it led us all to something better. Seth Kalar accessed another file. Casualty reports from the transition period. Not everyone survived the changes. Some species could not adapt to the new ways. Change is never without cost, Sarah 7 acknowledged. But stagnation has a cost too. How many species never reached their potential because they were too comfortable with the old ways? And how many individuals were lost because we forced them to change too quickly? Fewer than would have been lost to slow decline and eventual extinction, Sarah 7 replied. Your council was stable, but it was also dying. Birth rates were falling across most member species. Innovation had stopped. Art and culture were becoming repetitive. You were achieving perfect peace at the cost of purpose. Vorthak nodded grimly. I see it now, but at the time I thought we were protecting civilization. You were, Sarah 7 said. You protected it until we could transform it into something that could protect itself. A new chime announced another arrival. Dr. Vexathul entered on her spider-like legs. But she too had been changed by the decades of cooperation with humanity. Her compound eyes now held depths of understanding that had not been there before. The afternoon reports, she announced, settling into her customized chair. The Andromeda expedition has made contact with 17 new species. All have accepted Federation membership after seeing what we offer. Any conflicts? Zethkalar asked. None. They are amazed by what we have accomplished. Apparently, the idea of different species working together instead of just coexisting is revolutionary to them. Sarah 7 smiled. Everything seems revolutionary when you have been doing the same thing for millions of years. Dr. Vexthul brought up images from the expedition. They want to know how we learned to cooperate so effectively. I told them we had good teachers. Teachers? Forthak asked. Humans taught us that change was possible. The Council taught us that stability was valuable. Together we learned to balance both. As the day faded into evening, the four beings sat together in comfortable silence. Outside the window, the gardens glowed with bioluminescent plants that had been created by the combined knowledge of a dozen species. Ships from hundreds of worlds traveled between the stars, carrying not weapons but ideas, art, and hope. Do you think we made the right choice? Zethkalar asked finally. Sarah 7 stood and walked to the window. 100 years ago, you ruled against Earth and thought you were protecting the galaxy. Today, children of 50 different species play together in gardens where weapons used to be. What do you think? The old speaker joined her at the window. Below them, a human child was teaching a young crystalline being how to laugh. The sound of their joy echoed through the chambers where once only the cold voices of judgment had been heard. I think, Zethkalar said slowly, that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to give them a reason to prove you wrong. And sometimes, Sarah 7 replied, the best thing you can do for yourself is to let them.